Hey Spooky Boos, it's Meg. I run by Meg C, which is a cross-stitch pattern shop on Etsy. I've had close to 1,500 sales with all the patterns that I design and put together and sell. I don't consider myself an expert in all the things that I'm teaching in these tutorials. However, I hope that it kind of gives you a bit of insight, maybe some ideas of how to put stuff together so that maybe you as well can start professionally selling some of your patterns. So what I thought we would do in today's video is I would show you how to put up some mock-up images for patterns that you might want to sell. So as you can see, I have my main image here that I usually use. However, I try and keep the same aesthetic with all the other mock-up images that I use as well. Just so that if someone does happen to be scrolling on Etsy or wherever, they know right off the bat, oh hey, that's a by Meg C pattern. So one of the first things I would suggest doing is some research. So you want to figure out what kind of aesthetic or what kind of niche you want to get into when you're designing your cross-stitch patterns. Are you going to be doing a little bit of everything, you know, some snarky, some modern, some old school landscape cross-stitch patterns, you know, of a cottage and a lake and trees? Are you going to get into the darker aesthetic and start doing spooky cross-stitch patterns like how I do? So one of the ways to do that, go to Etsy, type in cross-stitch pattern, and just see the various types of mock-up images that other stitchers have to offer. If you have niche down and you know what you're getting into, then maybe, you know, type in snarky cross-stitch if that's what you're getting into, and see how some of the sellers do their mock-ups. Again, same thing would be if you're going to get into the spookier aesthetic, type in spooky cross-stitch and see what pops up and how people take their photos of their products. Same thing with nerdy, you know, different aesthetic, see how they present themselves. Or if you're just going to be a little more simplistic and go for modern cross-stitch, see what they post their cross-stitch patterns like. So when you have chosen what niche you want to get into, you want to create a mock-up image that is similar to how everyone else does theirs. However, you also still want it different enough so that someone who's scrolling happens to know for sure, oh hey, there's a by Meg C. So you also want to kind of stand out from the crowd, and keep the same sort of aesthetic throughout your entire store. I went safe with my stuff, where I just kind of kept this gray and black and a little bit of white, so that way, no matter what pattern I post, the pattern itself will pop out, whereas the rest of my image just kind of blends together after a while of scrolling. At least that's what I think. I hope that makes sense. But you want to keep everything looking cohesive in your shop once you have chosen your niche. Okay, so say that's all said and done and you know what you're going for when you want to design your mock-ups. I recommend using some images off of a site called unsplash.com. The majority of the images are free. There are a couple on here that you have to have a membership for to download. However, again, this might not be the way that you want to go. As soon as you type in embroidery hoop here, just looking for, you know, cross-stitch mock-up, unfortunately, there's not much to offer. But I mean, say this one right here really was the way that you wanted to go with your mock-up images, then that's great. You would just go ahead and download this, and you can get rid of the pre-embroidered images there on a website that's free. It's called Photopea, and you could just open up the image and edit out the embroidery that was previously done on it. So without getting into too much details, you would load up your image into Photopea. I myself would hit this clone stamp here, and I would make this brush a little bit bigger. Size. Yeah, this should be fine. and then you would hit the Alt button and select an area of just the cloth here, and you can begin brushing over the embroidered image, and it'll slowly make it disappear. Again, you would spend more time doing this to make it look a little more cohesive, but basically you would keep going until you got rid of all this other previous embroidery on here. Now when all is said and done, you would end up with something that might look like this. This isn't perfect by any means, but I still think it turned out pretty good for our purposes. We would now just need to place our images. So one of the easiest ways to do that is to create a smart object. So I would start off by clicking this rectangle up here and right-clicking and selecting ellipse. And what you want to do is, while holding down your shift key, is click and hold and kind of create a circle that's approximately as big as this hoop, or the inside of the hoop where the cloth is. And we can drag this circle over on top. Okay, so mine's a little small here, so I'm just going to, let's try that again. Okay, so I'm a little too big here, but that's fine. So we're just going to place this loosely over where the cloth area is, and then we are going to create a new layer. I'm just going to select this white color here as my main color. There we go. And I'll select the brush tool here, make this a little bit bigger. And I'm just going to paint in this entire area as white. Okay, and deselect everything by hitting Command D. And over on this layer with the white circle we created, we're going to right click and we're going to click Convert to Smart Object. And then now we know we've created a smart object because there's a funky little box down in the corner there. So we are going to use the same image that we've been working on in our Stitch Fiddle area here, and we'll just re-download this. So I knew things were going too well. This is me returning while I'm editing this video. Somehow I completely lost this point. So if this doesn't exactly match up with what I was just saying, I'm sorry, but here we go. So we need to add our image to this mock-up. So we're going to double click on this tiny little square where we just put in the white circle, and it'll open up a new window with just the circle that we had created in this previous image here. So this is our smart object. So we're going to grab our cross stitch pattern image and drag and drop it on top of the circle. And then what we want to do is, in the layer menu, we're going to right click and click on clipping mask. And what that will do is it will hide the edges of our original layer and place it directly on top of this circle here. And you can, using the select tool in the left hand corner here, move this image around to where you might like it better, or if you check mark this transform controls button, you can resize this image so it's bigger, or you can make it smaller. I'm actually just going to make it a touch smaller because this is a small stitch, and we want the our customer or potential stitcher to know that this is a small stitch. We don't want to be misleading by making this huge, and then they get the pattern, they're like, what the heck is this? And we'll just click on this check mark for us to confirm the placement and uncheck this transform controls. and we'll go up top left hand corner of the screen, click on File, and we'll save as Smart Object. And it'll say Smart Object Updated at the top of the screen. So when we click over to our other layer, there's our image on top of the embroidery hoop. So we want to fine tune this a little bit more, obviously. One of the ways you can do that is by selecting the heart layer here. We can click on this drop down menu and click on multiply. And that kind of gives you a bit of a preview, or gives you kind of a glimpse of the cloth that's beneath. However, it does unfortunately darken where we've placed some of our white stitches here. But again, for a mock-up, people understand that you can't always cross stitch everything that you are going to be selling. So this'll still do. Another thing to help make this a little bit more realistic as well is if you're going to click on your background image here and double click on the photo, you can also add a drop shadow to inside the hoop area here, which kind of helps add a little bit more realism to it, I guess is what you would say. I don't know, I still think as a thumbnail that you'd be scrolling by, I still think this is presentable enough and will make people want to click onto it. But again, you would just keep fiddling with your mock-up images until you find something that you like. This is just a quick example of how I would do it. Okay, so let's say we are really happy with this, so then we want to save this. So obviously the first one, we want to save this as just a regular image. So you would go File, Export As, and I always save my stuff as JPEG. You want it at the highest quality. You can name it whatever the heck you want. Heart thing. And then just click Save. Now the next file that you want to save this as is as a PSD. Now the reason you want to save it as a PSD is because it'll be saved as a layered file, so you can go back into this later on and create all the mock-ups that you need. First, what I would do though is I would just get rid of this heart image right now because we don't need it for future mock-ups. So we'll just delete that and then File and Save Smart Object, and then go back to our main file. And as you can see, that got rid of the heart, but it still kept the Smart Object layer. So now we'll do File, Save as PSD. So now if we were to open this up again, it would automatically come up just like this with the Smart Object layer already set, and all we would have to do is just plunk in whatever image we want to create a mock-up for. So another thing to keep in the back of your mind when you're choosing a mock-up image for your cross-stitch patterns is to think outside of the box. There's no reason for you to have to always use an embroidery hoop. There's no reason that you have to use a framed image. You could type in something like floral wreath and find something that would work to display your pieces. So for this example, I have chosen this image here. And again, this is an image that I found on Unsplash, which I thought looked pretty neat. So obviously doesn't really have anything to do with cross stitch, but I just liked how clean this looked, and I just like the fact that this is totally different compared to what other cross stitch mock-ups you see out there. So in order to edit this, what I would do is I would either take a photo of Ada that I have lying around the house, making sure that I have, either direct daylight shining on the piece of Ada, or you can just Google Ada and find, hopefully you can find a piece that would work well with your mock-up. So I'm just going to open up my Ada file here. And now that my piece of Ada is uploaded, I'm just going to click on the layer and drag and drop it into my main image here. And it came out quite small, but that's not a problem. All we have to do is check off this transform controls box and we can make this bigger. And just center it into our piece here. Make that a little bigger, I guess. Perfect. And then what I want to do is in this box up here, I'm going to select multiply so that this will just give a light illusion over our mock-up that it's stitched on Ada. I'm going to click on this bottom background image and create a new layer that's in between the background and the Ada I just put in. So what we want to do with this new layer here is I want to create a white box that is the exact same size as the layer or Ada that we just added. So click on the Ada layer and select the command tool and click on the image box. That will create a dotted line box here. Click back on the layer we just added, and I want to paint this in white. Paintbrush tool here and just paint in some white. And now we've got a layer for our smart objects. So Command D to deselect. You can even type in a new layer name. So by double clicking, you can type in whatever you want to call it. So there's our smart layer. We can even change this one up here to Ada. And literally right here, what I would do is I would save this as the PSD file, just because this is what we would use moving forward to create all our mockups. Now to create our mockup, we'll click on the smart layer, right click, and convert to smart object. And then we'll double click on the image, and there is our smart object layer, and we'll add in our heart as normal, just drag and drop. Right click on that layer we just added, click on clipping mask, and there we go. Now we'll go to file and save smart object, and just like before, we'll click over to our main file, and there's our mockup right there. Now this isn't the best example, but when you do zoom in on our image here, you can see that the Ada layer is showing through. Another cute little mock-up design. Of course, there's also the obvious solution of going and buying a previously made mock-up design of an embroidery hoop. Etsy has multiple options for you to choose from, and some of them are actually set up with a bit of, props placed beside the hoops. Again, it's all up to you. If you want to go this route, that's great. If I were to go this route, I would want to think long term. Maybe down the road, if I chose this design, I won't want my aesthetic to always be a wooden background like this. Who knows? So I would choose just a simple image of an embroidery hoop, to be honest. And I actually did purchase this one right here. Now the reason being is I can just present my cross-stitch patterns with a white background like this for a nice, clean, cohesive look. Or what we can do is we can select this embroidery hoop and place it into other designs later on down the road, should we choose. Maybe we'll create a pattern that is Halloween themed, and if you have just the hoop saved, then you can find some fun Halloween images and then just layer your hoop image on top of that. So anyway, let me show you how to do that. So again, we're going to go to Photopea and here is the file I received after I purchased that listing, and again, it's just a nice clean image here. It comes with the smart mockup already ready to go and gives you the direction of double click this image here so that you can insert whatever image you like. So it's just like what we were doing earlier, except it's already pre-made for us. And there's my image on the hoop. And I can just move this to where I like. And then I would just go File and Save Smart Object. And when I go back to the main image, there we go. Quick and easy. But again, this is pretty simple. Might not always be something that we want in the future. Oops. So let me show you how we can change this up a bit. And it's really easy on Photopea. I was shocked with how easy this is actually. So what we want to do is we want a layer behind our background here. So we're going to create a new layer, we're going to click and drag it, and we're going to put it underneath the background image. Now with this background image selected, I want to go over to Select menu, and we want to go Remove BG. And within a couple seconds, it literally gets rid of the background for you. Now that means that we can just, oops. So now with the background gone, you would just want to right click on the background layer, or I'm sorry, right click on that image, and then click on Merge Down, and create another layer, put that layer underneath, and now on your hoop here, you can just move this around wherever you like. So for example, we had a cross stitch pattern that we wanted to display, and we really like this image, so we would just open that and then go over to our hoop here, and we want to select both layer 1 here and also the smart object layer. How to do that is if you click on layer 1, you're going to hold down the shift key and then click down the second layer that you want to select, and it'll select 2 at the same time. So now we can click this and then drag and drop it into our new image here, and that brought over our hoop and the smart object. And with them both still selected, we're going to move our hoop into the center, or we can even just have it off to the side here. It doesn't matter, you can move it wherever you like. And then we want to click on Transform Controls so that we can make it as big as we like as well, or as small as we like. Maybe we don't want this whole image. Perfect. And then again, what we can do is, with just our hoop image selected here, we can double click and we can add another drop shadow just to kind of give it the illusion that it actually is included in this photo. And again, you can edit everything so that it works with the background image. Perfect. And then again, we would just do our normal, because we brought over the smart object layer, and just double click on it, and we can add in our mock-up image again. Right click and clipping mask. I'm going to make this a little bit bigger. File and Save Smart Object. Pop back over to our Christmas design there, and there it is. Easy peasy, lemon squeezy. Okay, I don't know what is going on with my computer recorder, but it's literally just recording 10 to 15 seconds worth of stuff before it's like, yeah, no, and drops it all and deletes it. So just gonna use my phone for this last bit. So just a quick recap of what we were doing today. We were using this website called photopea.com to create all of our mock-ups, and we're using unsplash.com and finding random images in here. Just a reminder, but well, a bunch of these images are for free. I would read the terms and conditions once you download them. 99.9% of the time it's, hey, please link to the photo that you're using on the website that you're using it on, and you're golden. And then, of course, some of the other photos that are on here, you need the Unsplash Plus Premium subscription. I can be found on Facebook. This is my Facebook group by Meg C. You'll have to answer a couple questions if you choose to join, but this is one of the spots where I post all my free cross-stitch patterns. It's also just a cute little community where all of us stitchers just get together and just stitch, bitch about stitch, post some of our finishes. It's a fun little group here. So would love for you to join. If you aren't on Facebook, that's fine. I also have a Ko-fi page where I post all of my free cross-stitch patterns as well. And some of my for purchase patterns are also on here. The for purchase patterns, they are Pattern Keeper compatible. The free ones, not all of them are. But, I mean, they're free, so can you really complain? If you do, I don't really care, just deal with it, okay? And last but not least, of course, I can be found on Etsy. Shop name is by Meg C. I also have two other shops, by Meg C Stickers and Orange Potato Design, but by Meg C is where I post all of my cross-stitchy goodness. Most of it is all patterns on here. There are a couple digital downloads of some of the prints that I've designed, and there's also a couple listings for some needle minders that I've made, but for the most part, all cross stitch. So anyway, sorry for the potato phone quality at the ending here. Please share this video. If you have any questions, comment them down below. Hit that bell so you can subscribe to my channel. And until next time, stay spooky.